chances that I missed, some I held, some slipped away. One street over where my memories exist, I wonder what would change, I really couldn't say. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known, that would have kept me from the one I have today. Except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I just forget the lessons that I couldn't learn. Because one street over there's a life I could have known, that would have kept me from the one I have today. Everywhere I could have ended up just like that broken road, with a dead end in my path. Thank the Lord that I've got more than that. In this life there's nothing certain, except the curtain that rises to the stage. Silly games of second guessing, I won't forget the lessons that I don't deserve.
Good morning, Robertson County and points beyond. This is 1100 WSGI. I'm U-Turn Laverne, and this is One Street Over. Welcome to a brand new week. A little frost on the pumpkin out there this morning. Of course, the pumpkins are, I'm talking about the bedding plants that you planted. I hope you covered them if you had some frost. If you live, I think if you're up on the hill, you might have done okay, but if you live down in the hollow like I do, I'm afraid my wisteria got hit last night, and I'm so sad. But, yeah, I had some frost. I had to scrape my windows and do all those things this morning. So just kind of keep that in mind. Go out and check your cars, because you might have a little prep work if you don't park in a garage to get everything warmed up and get it going this morning. So in the house, Senator Kerry Roberts. Hello, sir. Who I reminded that it's time for him to Yeah, I messaged you over the weekend, and you said, but why don't you send me a reminder Monday morning just in case I forget. Hey, I feel you. It's one of those things. I am going in so many different directions. I can only imagine while y'all in session what it's like. And but I'm just going in so many different directions that I have to keep notes. I have to I have to just carry all the things with me all the time, because I never know what's going on.
We are now officially out of sessions. So.
Are you? Okay, I don't think I realized that.
Yeah, we finished Friday night.
Oh, you did finish Friday night. Okay. Very good. Well, congratulations. Take a nap.
Thank you.
Take a nap, man. Take a nap.
No time for that.
Yeah.
So now all the things that I haven't done for 4 months, I've got to do.
I think people don't realize you're a professor. And, you were a professor at Lipscomb.
No, no, you're insulting professors everywhere. I was an adjunct faculty. Let's just right. So,
you taught.
But you're not a professor is something that you get rewarded for being full-time doing it for what's a rank.
that?
It's just adjunct faculty.
Okay, well, I guess that I was an adjunct.
Well, you know what? And people call me Dr. Roberts all the time, and it's like, I don't have an earned PhD. Don't do that.
Yeah.
And but yeah, there's a lot of people that get that. But I do. I teach.
I knew that.
I teach CPAs, continuing professional education. So that's
Okay. Very cool.
that's my quote unquote real job.
I love it. I love it. Your real job.
Yeah.
And y'all got some other things going on too, but are you going to start talking about that yet or no? Soon? Okay.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I just kind of
Got some business things going on, but
okay. Well, what do I need to
probably
know about
really
the
kept
session?
secret.
What do I need to know about the session? And you were wondering where to find there. There's what it looks like.
Okay, so thank you. I got that right. Okay.
Okay.
So let me start out first of all by just saying that the events of this session have really overshadowed a lot of stuff that people don't know, and let me just take a moment to talk about it. And I'm not going to gloss over some of the topics that people do want to talk about, but I just want to start with this.
Okay.
So under Republican leadership, which we've had now since for the past 12 years,
Right.
Tennessee ranks top in the nation in fiscal management. And let me just say that again. We rank top in the nation in fiscal management. And let me give you some.
That's incredibly impressive, y'all. Y'all get that? That's why people are coming here in droves, but just don't bring your politics with you.
So we're number 3 lowest state. We're the third lowest in state and local taxes paid per capita. We're the number 4 most tax-friendly state for middle-class families. We're number 1 state for fiscal stability. We have a AAA bond rating. We have no personal income tax on wages and salaries. We are the least indebted state in the nation per capita. We rank top 3 of the states for the best funded pension plans. We're one of only 5 states without road debt.
Oh, wow.
Okay, let me say that again. Some states have like $1 billion in road debt, and
that's
we
crazy.
don't have
Yeah.
it. So we're one of 5 states. We put $250 million into the rainy day fund, bringing the emergency fund to more than $2 billion, which is the highest level in state industry. And we have a record of low taxes and low debt that positions us to be the best stewards of the people's money. So, people will pick all this apart who are trying to make partisan attacks or partisan points or whatever the case might be. But you know what? If you just stand back and just see that for what it is, you go, wow, Tennessee's, literally the best, state as far as
We're number 1.
Yeah.
We're number 1, right?
Okay, now this one we rank among the top states in new jobs and drawing new jobs. We're number 1 state in business climate by Site Selection Magazine. We're the number 1 recovery leader based on Business Facilities Magazine. We won the first ever Platinum Shovel Award, which came from an outfit called Area Development. We're the winner of the 2022 Impact Award from Business Facilities. We're number 1 for site readiness and programs and energy availability. And I mean, just it goes on and on. Yeah. Number 5 for automotive manufacturing. What have we done to stay a low tax state? Well, we had $407 million in tax cuts for the next fiscal year. This includes a 3-month sales tax holiday on food, which will run from August 1st to October 31st. $64 million with the way we've changed the way we do depreciation on businesses. We have a small business excise tax relief. We have a small business franchise tax relief. We've got small business relief from the business gross receipts tax. And we've established a state paid family leave credit against franchise and excise tax. It's a 2-year pilot. We've cut over $2 billion in taxes since 2011.
Oh, wow.
So we've reduced sales tax on food by nearly 30%. We've eliminated the Hall income tax on dividends. We've eliminated gift and inheritance taxes. We eliminated the professional privilege tax for most professions. We reduced taxes on ag equipment. We've cut taxes on manufacturing. We have we got rid of the gym tax. If you remember that fight, it was you paid a gym tax on small fitness facilities. We reduced the sales tax on fiber optic cable, and we implemented an annual sales tax holiday in August for back to school items. We've done a bunch of stuff that people don't talk about because it all gets obscured in just the world in which we live, where everything just seems to be
the noise,
hyper partisan.
Yeah.
Now, what about safe communities? Safer schools. What have we done? Well, long before the Covenant shooting, we had a plan in the works that was going through the legislative process to improve school safety. And we put $223 million to improve school safety and $140 million to put a school resource officer in every public school. Okay, I'm going to say something that's pretty hard hitting right now. To the people who say, well, we don't want our schools to look militarized, or we don't want our schools to be hardened targets or whatever. All right. Pardon me, but just stop and listen to what you're saying. Okay. First of all, the people who say that, and you're repeating what they say, the people who say that are the people who want to defund the police.
I know.
And you're parroting their words. Okay. So stop and think about where you're getting your talking points, and maybe you don't know, but you're parroting the words of the people that want to defund the police and want to get rid of the police. Please stop doing that. Okay. For years, we've wanted a police presence in schools so our children will see the police as the good guys. And we started that, I don't know, 30 years ago. I don't know when it was. And we've really encouraged our SROs. I mean, we give them a name, right? Because we don't want to call them a police officer, I guess, when they're in a school. And they get involved in the lives of the kids, and they're a positive mentor and positive role model in the life of kids. So the people who are decrying that are simply parroting the comments of the people that want to defund the police. Please stop doing that. Don't be their voice, their tool, repeating their talking point. It's a good thing when we have police officers in schools. When we had small town America, what did police do? They walked a beat. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And what did they do? They talked to kids.
Yeah.
Kids playing in the street.
Played ball with them.
Yes, exactly. And we live in a different world now, and the school is where, these officers can interact with kids. We've also created new safety standards and protocols at both public and private schools in Tennessee. We've changed some of the architectural requirements, and it's not going to be obvious to people, but things like a vestibule where, two sets of double doors that people have to come through, ballistic vinyl on glass that you can't even really see. I mean, there are things that you can do that nobody really knows that you did. Having being plugged directly into your 911 and having a lot of these safety plans so they're available for your local responders, and the drills that you go through just to be ready. I mean, let's stop making schools. I mean, schools are an easy target for people who want to do evil things because schools are quote unquote gun-free zones. And that's part of why this manifesto is not being released, is because it points out the obvious that she picked a school that she knew she could go in and kill people. And that's a whole nother story. I guess, I don't know how inflammatory that comment is or not, but I guess while I'm at it, I went to the Willow Oak thing at the center, and two people.
The gala.
Yeah, two people kind of got in my face and accosted me, which I thought was just the wrong time and the wrong place, but that's on them. And it was all about, what are you doing about guns?
Yeah.
And I'm just going to say that, again, stop being the voice of the people who want all the guns in America to be melted into something. I don't know what they want, but and stop and recognize the fact that guns are deadly and that there are other guns that are more deadly than the guns that she had, and stop being fixated on one gun. Why does somebody dress up in military looking stuff and go get an AR-15 and try to kill people? Where did that seed get planted in their mind?
Mentally.
Well, okay.
Mental
but what I'm
problems.
saying is, yeah, they have mental problems because every one of these drugs that they're taking have on the label what?
Yep.
You could have suicidal and homicidal ideation.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So that's a whole nother conversation. But my question is this: why do you want to dress up looking like that and having those guns? Who told you to do that? Where did you see that?
Well, I mean, all over the media, everywhere. It's
pervasive.
Yeah,
Okay,
exactly.
it's pervasive. So Hollywood, what's your role in this?
Oh, for heaven's sakes! I mean,
Okay.
you can't sit down
Video
and watch
games.
anything.
What's your role in this?
Yep.
Okay. What's wrong with these people that buy, first person shooter games? We would not allow them in our house.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you teaching your kids how to shoot people with their video games?
Mm-hmm.
Stop that.
The video game. I talk to my students all the time about video games. It seems like they all play them.
Yeah, and they need to stop playing them.
And I just don't even understand it. I
go back to I don't know. Go back to nothing. Go back to Pac-Man or something. I don't know what it is. How about we just not do it all together? How about you read a book?
I know. I know.
Why don't you dive into War and Peace or read some Bonhoeffer or something that will elevate your mind and teach you something and expand your brain matter instead of, a game that teaches you how to crash cars or shoot people.
The battle is so intense for the minds of our kids right now. It's
Look.
incredible, Kerry. I had standing in a classroom now and talking to. I had an encounter like in the fall with a student who was absolutely beside themselves, grief-stricken because of their grades. Their games were going to be taken away. I mean, inconsolable.
It just breaks my heart.
It does mine too.
It breaks my heart.
Precious person. And every time I see them in the hall, I just want to hug them because they got nothing at home. The only thing they have is their identity through that game because they don't have parents who care a lick about them. And the people who they interact with at school see them as different, and they I have not ever seen them treated badly, but people just kind of pull away because it's somebody that's just hard to get to know, put it that way. And they find their identity in that game. Absolute. I've never seen just inconsolable because of, I'm going to lose my games. I mean, I had to take them out of the classroom, calm them down because of their progress report they'd gotten. It was incredible. And then I talked to other students. They all, how many of you game? Every single hand went up. Every single hand. I don't know. I don't know what to do. As a teacher, I don't know what to do.
Well, I don't know that you can do anything. And you just, all I can say is that the parents who are involved in the lives of their children, bless you, what a wonderful calling that is.
Yeah.
Okay. And if you can find some time to look at your children's friends and see what the void is in their life, and if there's any way on some level you can help fill that void, there's not probably anything more important than you could be doing, because for two reasons. Number one is that child needs the influence of an adult in their life, and number two, that child is going to be influencing your child. And so if you can, I'll never forget this. There's a guy named Thomas Wenninger who used to do business seminars, and he was a funny guy, and he told funny stories. And one of the things that he told was calling up and ordering a pizza one time. And he called the number. This is back when you did the phone call and you didn't do it with an app and you didn't do it online. And so the person said something like, "Ashley, what's up?" And he said, "This isn't Ashley. This is Ashley's dad," or whatever her name was. And, "Oh, Mr. Wenninger, how are you today?" And he's like, "How do you know Ashley's name and how do you know my name?" And he said, "Well, you're a really good customer." And he said, "Well, how good of a customer am I?" And he said, well, he could hear the keyboard.
No.
He said, "Well, it looks like so far this year you bought about $1,100 in pizza."
Whoa.
And he said he had the same reaction that he did. And he said, I got to thinking about that. And he said, my first reaction was, we've spent how much? And then when I was talking to my wife about it later, she said, "You know what? That's worth every penny, because you know what that means? All of our children's friends are coming to our house and we're buying pizza for them." And she said, we made that decision that in as much as possible, we wanted our children's friends to be in our house.
I love that.
Where we could, kind of control the environment, control the setting, make sure they didn't drink or they didn't do this, they didn't do that. And she said, it's worth every penny. And I've never forgotten that. So we always tried to be the place that the friends came to and still do to some extent.
Right.
But, and I don't know that we did that great of a job of it, but I'm just going to say to the parents out there, if you have a chance, if you've got a good home and you have a chance to be the home where kids come to, that's worth giving up a lot of things. Maybe
that hospitality.
Maybe you don't buy a new car this year. Maybe you pass on a job promotion or something, but just you only have them for a brief moment.
We
had take advantage of it.
Our sermon yesterday, Nate Hale filled in for Russ, who was traveling. He talked about hospitality, the call to hospitality. And I mean, exactly what you're talking about. Exactly what you're talking about. And what was this gentleman's name you mentioned?
It was Tom Wenninger, and I don't even know if he's around anymore.
I just wanted to look him up.
Let me say this. 1 Peter 4:9. I just saw this morning. Cheerfully share your home with those who need a meal or a place to stay.
Amen.
And I wrote that down because I just thought.
So you came across that too?
Yeah.
How funny, because that's what our lesson was.
It's
it's just God.
There's a reason
all over it
that we hear these things.
Yeah, but he's our youth minister, and he pointed out how that you're called to be hospitable and entertain people in your home if you're going to be a leader in the church. Talks about entertaining angels unaware, and he correlated that back with Abraham entertaining the angels when they found out that Sarah was going to have a baby at 99. It was an excellent lesson yesterday, excellent lesson about hospitality and how, you talk about wanting the kids to come to your home. We wanted that too, but because we went to Good Pasture, that's kind of a statement to be in the community, to be in the school in your community, because we missed out on that. Really wanted that in our home, but because our kids were at Good Pasture, because our membership was at the Madison Church of Christ, and we were not going to church and going to school in our community, we didn't have that. And so that's something that my children have noticed, and so they're making a diligent effort to go to church and go to school in their community because they want to have that reach, and I respect that. There's a lot to be said
about that.
You better believe it. Yeah.
Well, let me just say, you mentioned teachers. One of the things we did well, and I'm sure I've got it here, is we bumped up again teacher pay, and it kind of, there are teachers that love us and teachers that hate us. It kind of depends on where they are politically and what the issue of the day
love
is.
you.
But
you know that.
Thank you. But teacher pay bumped up, and we ask a lot out of our teachers, and it's only appropriate that we continue to try to bring their pay in line with what we ask them to do. And I'm sure I've got a tab here somewhere. I've got a brand new book with all the
stuff,
all the stuff. And so anyway, we're just a lot of good things going on in Tennessee, and I know they've been overshadowed by some of the stuff that took place in the House, and people have their opinions on that. I'm really, I'm just going to say this about the House. Tennessee has a bicameral legislature. The House and the Senate are independent. If you don't like what the House did, then talk to the House. I don't have any say so in that. I didn't agree with it. I don't see any point in people say, well, you didn't speak out against it. Well, let's just look at the reality here. For a bill to become a law, it has to pass both the House and the Senate. So I don't think as a senator, it's my job to criticize the House. It may just be that that's the last bill I ever get passed. You know what I mean? And so I don't. If I don't agree with what they do, I don't agree. But I'm just going to move on because, we are. I think our belief in the Senate is that we would probably be likely to save expulsion for a criminal act, but we weren't there and we weren't part of it, so I don't know. But we are independent of each other, and I think a lot of people just say, "Well, can't you still whatever?" It's like, no, I can't.
No, you can't.
They
That's
don't have to
separations
listen
of
to me.
power, y'all.
Yeah,
That's what
so-
that's about, and that's what makes us so unique as a country and Tennessee, because we respect that.
Yeah.
And some states don't. And that's why we're number one.
Well, I try not to meddle. I've said this repeatedly. I don't go to Board of Alderman meeting. I don't go to county commission meetings. I don't go to school board meetings. And I did not get elected to cast a vote in those. I'm always there if they need me. I come if I'm invited, but I try not to meddle. That was advice that I got very early on, which I thought was really good advice. And I try to be a resource. I try to be helpful. And if a school board member needs something, I try to respond really quickly to it. But I'm a state senator, and it's my job to do legislation that affects the entire state. And it's also the job of our office to respond to our constituents with the concerns that they have and the needs they have. And we spend a whole lot of time solving people's problems with state government. It might be somebody who's being denied TennCare benefits. It might be somebody who's got a small business and they've got a problem with the Department of Revenue. It might be, a county that's trying to solve some problems with state aid roads and they need help with TDOT. So we may have a realtor who changed firms and their license didn't get transferred and they've got a real estate closing and I need something done right now. I mean, these are all real life examples of things that we spend a lot of time doing. And I will have to laugh and say, I get a lot of credit for solving a lot of those problems, and it's really not me, it's Janet and my legislative assistant. We're
She's
part-time.
wonderful.
She is. We're part-time. She's full-time. And I jokingly say to a lot of people, cut out the middleman, just call her. And because I take a phone call and all I do is turn around and
hey,
call
Janet,
her
can
and
I do
say,
that? What's
yeah,
my calendar look
yeah.
like?
So she gets a whole lot of stuff done for the 200-some thousand people that we represent, and really proud of her and the job that she does.
Very good. Let's pause and let's take a break. I'm talking with Senator Kerry Roberts. The General Assembly has come to a close for this year, and I had not realized that. But anyway, I've had a busy weekend. But we're going to pause and talk about Cumberland Connect. I know I like to use the example that you can certainly say they're not playing favorites because our senator's going to be one of the last to
I'm
get
still
it.
waiting.
He's still waiting.
Yeah.
Well, because it was kind of funny. Mayor Vogel and Dr. Chris Causey, they were early on, but it's because of where their property is located in the outlying areas. And they started with the outliers that have had no internet, basically, and they started moving in. So I live, people don't realize, even though I live on, a farm, you live on some acreage too, we're very blessed that we live very close to downtown. I mean, I'm probably just 5 miles from the downtown square. So I only got it at the first of the year. It's wonderful, by the way. Senator Roberts is getting it, I think, toward the end of the year. Didn't you say?
I think it's actually next year. I'm not sure.
Oh, it's next year?
I'm like
You're
on
like
the
the
detail
end. Yeah, you're at the very end. So basically, if you've got questions about, if you are, here's the thing you've got to know. You've got to be a Cumberland Electric customer. So if you are a Cumberland Electric customer, go in and put your zip code in, and it will tell they may already be there. But you can go to cumberlandconnect.org, cumberlandconnect.org, or you can call 1-800-987-2362, 1-800-987-2362. Give them your zip code. They'll let you know just when you will be getting high-speed internet. They also have an affordable connectivity program providing qualifying households with a monthly credit to help pay for internet services. If you're eligible, you may receive a credit of up to $30 per month toward broadband services. It's that easy. Just message them, let them know that you want high-speed internet, and they're going to come take care of you, and they're just absolutely wonderful. Full-time sponsor now of this program. When you get in touch with them, thank them for sponsoring One Street Over. Senator Kerry Roberts, we've got a half hour now. Where do you want to go? It's your time.
I guess people are asking about a special session, and let me talk about that real quick. And so the in the aftermath of the Covenant school shooting, there was an outcry for what are called red flag laws.
Right.
And let me just make an observation. We've been looking at red flag. I've been on the Senate Judiciary Committee since 2014, and we have looked at red flag laws repeatedly. And I'm going to make a very general statement. First of all, if it were easy to do, every state would have done it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Second general statement is everybody out there agrees that a mentally ill person ought not to have a gun or have access to guns. Okay. I don't know of anybody that disagrees with that.
Right.
Do you?
No, I absolutely agree with it.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah.
So if nobody disagrees with that, then you would think, well, how can we get there? Could we do that? Sorry, I gotta.
Oh, you're fine.
There was somebody I was supposed to call. So I think we all agree that mentally ill people ought not to have guns. So if everybody agrees with that, the only people that don't agree with that are the mentally ill people, right?
True.
Okay. So if virtually 100% of the population agrees with that, then why can't we accomplish it? Well, you're having to balance two things. You're having to balance, there's maybe, sorry, I'm kind of making this up as I go here with my analogy. I'm making my analogy up as I go. You kind of have 3 points of a triangle. You have the fact that, you've got a constitutional right. Mm-hmm. This isn't a right that's granted by government.
It's in the Constitution.
It's a constitutional right. Okay. So you're balancing that with the need for due process. Can we take away people's constitutional rights? Yeah, we can. But how do we do that? We do that through due process and the legal system and whatnot. And what does that mean? Well, it kind of depends, because due process, is it now? Is it later? Is it what? And so then that gets into this third piece, which is called an ex parte order. And so ex parte means that anyone who's gone through a divorce with kids understands this completely, okay? You come home and your husband or wife is gone with the kids. They've left you. They had already lawyered up. You didn't know it, and they got an ex parte order to take the kids away from you, which means that you weren't part of that hearing. That was done without your knowledge, without your consent, and the only way you get your kids back is you spend $100,000 in a year in court, and if it was unjustifiable, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm not trying to go down a rabbit hole, but I'm just trying to say, I'm also, the Board of Professional Responsibility in the Administrative Office of the Courts. So in other words, the group that disciplines attorneys and the group that disciplines judges all to some extent have some legislative oversight by the committee that I chair, okay? Mm-hmm. The number one complaint, I'm saying this anecdotally, that we get about attorneys and judges are about ex parte orders in the world of family law. My kids got taken away from me unjustifiably. I can't get them back. Now, sometimes, obviously, somebody is saying, my kids got taken away from me unjustifiably, and it's not unjustified.
Right.
They're lying. Mm-hmm. Okay. But sometimes their spouse lied. Mm-hmm. He's beating the kids. He's doing this, or she's whatever. And none of that was true. So we get a lot of complaints about ex parte orders. That's probably, anecdotally, that's probably the number one we think. Why is it? Because it gets used to people's advantage. All right. Okay. So the whole ex parte thing has problems in and of itself. But we allow it when we think, for example, kids are at risk. Okay. But it gets misused a lot. Okay. So it's not been perfected. All right. Let me say basically that where we are in this trying to sort all this out is very few states have effective red flag laws. You know, every state that has a red flag law has had mass shootings. Sandy Hook. Okay.
Oh yeah.
And so it's really hard to strike a balance between giving people due process, however you define that, and taking their guns away. And you know, you can't have a hearing to adjudicate whether or not someone has a mental illness and then stop and think about it and say, well, we're going to rule in 5 to 10 to 14 days. You just gave somebody a window to do something, right? Mm-hmm. And so it's a real complicated matter. I'm just simply going to say we've been looking at it since I've been on Judiciary Committee, and we've not found a way to thread the needle. Now, the problem with all this is added to this is we do have laws on the books where if someone is a danger to themselves or other people, you can go through a process where they are involuntarily, restrained, incarcerated, institutionalized, however you want to say it. And, these things don't get exercised. So here you have somebody who's mentally ill, 28 years old, living at home, mentally ill, under the care of a healthcare professional on, to some extent, multiple drugs, who apparently has had a very lengthy period of suicidal and homicidal ideation, okay? And nobody said anything. So if you are going to have a red flag law, what's the first thing that's required for it to be effective? Number one is somebody says something.
Yeah.
And nobody said anything. What is the right of a mental health professional to say something? How does HIPAA come into play? How does, patient confidentiality come into play? This was pointed out to me. Someone's being treated for postpartum depression, and they want to, they go into the therapist and they vent, and just, want to kill somebody, right?
Yeah.
And do they mean it? No. But what is the therapist supposed to do? So there are a whole. Let me just say, there are, how many states in America? 50 states in America, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. And the vast majority of these states don't have this because they've never figured out how to thread the needle. It's not just Tennessee. Let me say something else about Tennessee. People say, well, automatic weapons ought to be banned. They are. You ought to have an enhanced background check. We do. Do you realize it's not easier to get guns in Tennessee than it is in other states? We're really about the middle of the pack. And do you know that what we use for background checks is more extensive than what the feds require? There's a lot of misinformation about what's required in Tennessee. Mm-hmm. It's a very comprehensive problem. It requires a comprehensive solution. And berating me at a charity fundraiser is
inappropriate at best.
Well, yeah. and you know what? And it really annoyed me because one of the people said, I'm not going to say it, and they ended up saying it anyway. And the other one just launched. And launched at the person whose table I was sitting at, which I thought was doubly inappropriate. Yep. And you know what? I'm just going to say, you need to get past your little partisan emails and talking points and realize that this is a complicated issue that, guess what? Nobody else has figured out either. Mm-hmm. So if you want to sit here and say, well, Indiana has it figured out, no, they really don't. Mm-hmm. Okay? Well, Florida has it figured out. Oh, no, they don't either. Okay. And neither do any of these other states that have tried it. Adding complication to all this is you've got a recent Supreme Court case called Bruen, Bruen, which basically invalidates a lot of states' gun laws, and people want to pick and choose on the Supreme Court. The liberals did not want to pick and choose when the Obergefell ruling came down and basically said marriage can be between anyone who wants to get married,
regardless of what the state constitution
regardless of what a
says.
state constitution says. And so now all of a sudden they don't want to accept Bruen. So you've got a couple of really landmark decisions from the Supreme Court related to firearms that we have to observe, Bruen and Heller. And so I'm kind of need to move on here, but the bottom line is this. If it was easy, we would have done it. And so the governor calling a special session as if magically these issues are suddenly going to align, and unless somebody's got some new information, I don't see how. So we've got people on the left calling for a special session. We've got people on the right saying don't do it. It is very split. It's very divisive. My only answer is I'm fine with having a public discussion, but under certain requirements. Number one is 360 degrees. Every viewpoint is represented, because until you get people with differing points of view in a public forum able to challenge each other's statements, it's not going to be very useful either to legislators or the general public. So for example, if someone's against a red flag law starts talking about due process, and someone who's for it disagrees with their statements on due process, they need to be free to say, well, so-and-so, I disagree with you, and here's why. See, that's the problem with hearings. In hearings, it's who gets invited to speak, right? Who gets invited to speak? We need every viewpoint on this issue represented at a table, and that really doesn't need to be a special session. A special session is when you contemplate a law. It needs to be like a roundtable discussion. It needs to be public. It needs to be televised, and it needs to be fair. And that is, it doesn't need to have the deck stacked up front. Now I'm not threatened by that. And you know why I'm not threatened by it? Number one is if you can't do it, it would be obvious. And if you can do it, then we need to. Right? I mean, I'm not wedded to a position. If you can do it in a way that, keep in mind, what's your goal? Your goal is to keep guns out of the hands of someone who's mentally ill. If you can figure out how to do that and not have a situation where someone uses it in a retaliatory manner. I mean, I know this example is extreme, but you have to allow for the fact that things like this would happen, okay? I asked a friend of mine the other day, I said, who doesn't like Donald Trump. I said, tell me how many, if you did a survey of the general public asking, are Donald Trump supporters mentally unstable? What percentage of the people would answer yes?
Exactly.
Okay. The answer was 25%. And then it was like 20% yes, 20% maybe, and 60% no. That was the answer I got. Now you just stop and think about that for a second. Now, if you're someone right now nodding your head saying, yeah, that sounds about right, then I'm speaking to you right now. Okay. You know what this means is? This means that there's somebody out there that when their neighbor puts up a Trump 2024 sign in their yard, there is a person out there who says that person's mentally ill and they have guns, I'm calling the cops.
Yep.
And that's what due process prevents. Due process prevents some retaliatory action that you better believe would happen. And you can say, oh, that's ridiculous, that's an outlier.
It's not.
No, because
It's
things
not.
like that have happened.
Yeah.
So
In other states, you hear the stories.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So it's not, I mean, is it common? Probably not. Does it happen? Yes, it does. Are we talking about a constitutionally protected right? Yes, we are. So you just, look, if we can figure out how to thread the needle, let's thread it. I don't object to that. I just haven't seen anybody figure it out so far.
Yeah, I've still got a couple of breaks to take. We're talking with Senator Kerry Roberts, and this is a conversation we could have. We could talk for a while.
No,
about,
we can't. I'm done talking about
Ha
it.
ha ha. But
for now.
I appreciate your candid responses, and we'll get back to more of what went on with the general session. And we're going to, of course, pause and talk about one of our sponsors, Corbin Creek Greenhouse Gifts and Gardening Center. Save the date, May 13th. That is the day that you want to be at Corbin because they're going to have their Customer Appreciation Day. A chance to come out and get some free hot dogs, great deals on all kinds of beautiful things for your home, and of course something beautiful and wonderful for Mother's Day. They're going to have a planting station for the kiddos to plant something beautiful, get some hanging baskets. Oh, it's just so much fun. And maybe you got a little bit of frost on the pumpkin plants last night. You might want to come out and pick up a few more bedding plants. Hopefully not too many people got bit last night, but bedding plants, of course, are going out of Corbin just as fast as they can. If you want to plant your garden with Corbin bedding plants, you got to get out there before they run out of exactly what you want. They are going to take great care of you, and your garden's going to grow better than it ever did. Just ask Brian Pulley. He's a testimony to that. All their bedding plants last year came from Corbin. Says it's the best garden they ever had. When you get out there, be sure and go in the store and check out all their CBD products, their handmade items. Miss Jane makes a lot of those. I've gotten so many things there that I cherish because Miss Jane made them. And CBD, I cannot swear by it enough. Go and check them out at 4920 Highway 161 in Springfield. You can call them at 615-384-3185, 615-384-3185, 10 for the hours right now. The hours on Customer Appreciation Day, they'll start at 9 a.m. So get out there today and be sure and talk and talking with my friend Senator Kerry Roberts in the house, talking to us about all things Tennessee General Assembly.
Okay,
Where do you want to go next?
No, you ask a question. It's your choice.
Oh my goodness. Well, I do want to. We can't say enough about how we appreciate you from the buses taking care of that the GPS issue, and that's kicking in. When did you tell me? I think in July that law kicks
Probably
in.
July 1st, and I don't know if I have a tab for that one because it was so simple.
Well, and it was one of those things. It's so funny.
Great idea.
Here's what you need to know, guys. If there's something you need to bring to Senator Roberts, the end of January is the cutoff to get something heard, to get it, to be put out there so it can be possibly passed as law. This is something we needed. My husband is the safety guy for the buses, and the very first day they hired him, he had to go out and fill in for a bus driver. It was raining, it was dark, and he had literally handwritten drive-by-drive directions in a bus on a backcountry road. And he was like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know what they're expecting me to do to be able to do this. How can you go out and drive a route with no knowledge of it? You're by yourself. There's no assistant or no monitor on the bus to even say, hey, yeah, turn here. And without GPS, I don't see how these drivers have been doing it. And so just the fact that you've got drive-by-drive directions are going to be available for the drivers now, just like you would have in your car starting July 1. So, yay.
Well, that one worked out pretty nicely. And then they also, if you read the bill, you'll see some other language in it.
Right.
Montgomery County is doing a pilot program where they scan the kids. So
you know where your kids are.
if you're and any parent that's ever experienced standing there at the bus stop and your kid doesn't get off the bus, you know what a moment of panic that is.
Oh, yeah.
And by being able to scan the kids, they know where they are. And a driver could look that up real quick and say, well, the kid didn't scan out of the school, so they're still at school. And so anyway, that's a pilot program that they're experimenting with. So that worked out nicely. I mean, there are a whole lot of things. And by the way, I don't think I said this. So when the governor called for a special session on red flag laws, he didn't put a date on it. He just said he looked forward to working with the House and the Senate. And I think the feedback from the House and the Senate is not now. And I think the overwhelming thing that I've seen is if we're going to do that, do it in the fall. It's expensive to do. And I'm just going to say, of course, the quick response is if it saves one life. And I know that's kind of become a common answer, but, I'm just going to say there's not anything in anything being proposed that would have changed the outcome at Covenant School. And people don't want to hear that, but there were already laws on the books that could have been taken advantage of that were not. So there's absolutely no indication that any of these proposed laws would have made any difference whatsoever. And I said I was going to. Okay.
But before you do, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're going to be out of time. We had my friend Demita Utley came in, and she was, doing a prayer visual about stopping violence in the schools and those kinds of things. And as she started going down a road, I kind of felt like we were probably on the opposite sides of gun regulation. I'm one of these people. I grew up with my classmates had their deer rifle in their truck. I'm a very big supporter of the Second Amendment. I do not believe you fix this problem by grabbing guns and trying to do anything with our Second Amendment. I don't think that's the solution at all. I think it comes back to being able to help the mentally ill and institutionalizing those kinds of things. What we did about shutting down our mental institutions because there was so much abuse. We got to fix that, and we've got to start regrouping. Mental illness is a thing, and we've got to deal with it and help these families. I've got a friend who has a child who is schizophrenic. And right after this happened, I sit there and just watched her weep, saying, it scares me to death that could get, and they monitor it so tight. But she goes, it could happen. And so help these families that are dealing with mentally ill people in their family or the mental ill that are on the streets. Let's figure that out. I guess I asked, I would like for us to do a thing in here, a round table in here. If I could put together some kind of a round table about discussing this, would you be a part of that? Do you think we could do that? But I mean, I'm all sides, and let's discuss it. And I don't think we could do it. I think we need to do it after school's out, and let's do it forever what time we feel like it needs to take. I'll have to talk to ILU. But I think it's a conversation we need to have, and so we need to start having them in the communities.
Well, I want to go back to something you said.
Go ahead.
There's a biblical principle here, and that is what you see, right? What you take in, influences
Absolutely.
the way you think, and you can't have a steady diet of violent images and not have violent ideation. You just can't. I mean, you just can't. You just get desensitized, and there's so many things that are not harmless that society tells us are harmless. Violent video games are not harmless. They say they are. Wait, I said that backwards.
You did.
Yeah, I said that right.
They are.
I need
not
more coffee.
Harmless.
Yeah.
They are harmful.
They are harmful.
Yes.
They are harmful. And pornography. I mean, there's just a long list of things that society tries to tell us.
Oh, it's no big deal.
No big deal. And why wouldn't society tell us that? There's a lot of money to be made in that. There's a lot of depravity. And just one of my favorite verses in the Bible, which describes it all. The thief comes to do what? Steal,
kill, and destroy.
And, we've talked about the stealing identity, identity theft, and but all this destruction, all this stealing. And we really, I go back to this great national debate that took place in the late 1700s about, are we good enough to self-govern? And this national soul searching that took place. And, I don't think it's any surprise that as a result of this national soul searching, what was on the heels of that, the spiritual awakening of 1800 and the Second Great Awakening. And, that's where we need to be as a nation. We need to say enough's enough. And, for parents who seem to have healthy kids, maybe get your kid to take the lead and stop playing these games. Just say, no, we're not going to do that. Because if there are 12 kids in a group that are playing a game, maybe, I don't know, I have no idea, maybe 8 of them it doesn't really seem to have an adverse effect on, but maybe 4 it does, and maybe 1 in particular, dreams of going to a shopping mall and shooting people up or something. I don't know. Just have a conversation with your kids about how terrible these games are, and you be the one to stop playing it. Just say to your friends, you know what? There's better things in life. I'm done.
And I'll tell you, as teachers, I challenge all of us teachers to just say to your students, and I don't know how I'm going to bring this up. I'm actually looking at business ethics and things like that with some of the curriculum that I'm working on right now. And I know that I just want to come up with some way just to challenge the students to stop playing violent games.
Right.
If you're going to game, please do not play the violent ones. You're all concerned about gun control. We're all concerned about school safety. What if I challenge you and say, stop it now?
Yeah.
You choose to stop it and choose not to send it to your children, and you're going to have to put it aside now.
Yeah.
And if you'll put it aside now, you will grow up a generation that will not have this just kind of this I don't know what the word I'm looking for, but it's just this uncalloused idea towards violence. I'm not sure the word I'm looking for. Maybe you can help me out there. But it's just the desensitization.
Well, and let me just say, okay, so parent pushback is going to be this. Well, how can I stop my kid from playing a game?
You just
okay. Or I don't, how do I know when they're playing the game? Okay, just stop and think about what you just said.
Yeah.
Okay, you just said, how can I do something?
Yeah.
How can I make my kid do something? How can I stop my kid from doing something? How do I even know what my kid is doing? Well, guess what? What you just did is you just revealed the problem right there.
Yep.
Because your child can act unknown to you without your permission and do things that you would never. How many parents have actually sat and watched a kid play this game? Oh my goodness. How many parents play the games too?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So am I trying to, someone says, well, you're just being a self-righteous prude. No, I'm really not. I'm trying to identify the fact that society has a violence problem, and there's not just one singular solution to it, but that's part of the problem. And we need to recognize that some of the things that we like to do are not good for us.
Yeah.
Are they?
Yeah. And I tell you, talking with Senator Kerry Roberts has been an interesting conversation. We could talk for much longer, and we're going to be out of time in just a second. I'm going to pause, take my last break, and we'll come back, and I'll just let you wrap it up. We're going to talk about Barry and Rebecca Richards with the Exit Realty Garden Gate team. And I have to remind you again and again, save the third weekend in May, because that is the weekend of the Kilgore Station Bluegrass Festival. They are residents of Cross Plains, and they are also sponsors of the Kilgore Station Bluegrass Festival. That's where I got to meet them. And you can come out to the festival, and you can talk to them. They'll sit around the table, and they'll give you everything you need to know about the real estate community. Whether you want to maybe be a realtor, they would love to mentor you and bring you along. Or if you're buying or you're selling, whatever side of the table you're on, Barry's the marketer. He comes to the table with marketing experience, expertise. Rebecca's one of the first in the area to be a senior real estate specialist. She's been at this a long time. She crosses those T's and dots those I's, and she studies and stays up to date on everything. They're a great team, great friends. And if you want to connect with them, you can go to sellwithbecky.com, sellwithbecky.com, or buy.robertsoncounty.com. They specialize in Robertson County properties, but of course they also buy and sell in the surrounding counties and across the state line in Kentucky. Again, you can connect with sellwithbecky.com or buy.robertsoncounty.com, or just give Becky a call, 615-504-7425, 615-504-7425. Tell them you turned sent you. Senator Kerry Roberts wraps up, my friend.
Well, thanks for letting me be on the show today. And look, if people have ideas on, any of these problems that we face, it's I'm not to quote Ross Perot, but I'm all ears. It's my favorite Ross Perot quote.
Oh, that's great.
That's a
You
cultural
forget about-
reference.
Yeah, you got to go look at Ross Perot. You'll understand.
You got to be over a certain age to
I wonder
get
how
that.
many of my students even know who Ross Perot is.
Probably
None of them.
Yeah, probably none.
None of them.
But yeah, would love
Bill
to hear
Clinton,
from people if
just
people
saying.
have ideas. I mean, it's these are some complicated things that we have to deal with. But I want to say this in closing. I believe that another biblical principle is as that evil grows, good is growing, and Jesus told the parable of the wheat and the tares, and they said, well, what do you want to do about the weeds? And he said, nothing. Let them grow. We'll sort it out in the end. Don't overlook the fact, for as discouraged as we get, that there is a lot of good stuff happening.
You
too.
better believe
There's
it.
a whole lot of good stuff happening,
Yeah.
and it's so easy for us to get focused in on all the evil in the world that we don't see all the good in the world. And there's a lot of good in a lot of different places. And I think, one of the things that we need to do as believers is it's time to let your light shine. It's time to do some good. It's time to recognize some good. It's time to be part of the solution. And I think you just have to pray and ask God, just what do I do here? How do I get to be part of your plan? And sometimes that means setting aside our own ambitions and doing what God calls us to do. I mean, in an ideal world, our personal ambition is to be what God wants us to be and do what God wants us to do. And yeah, if you can get to that point, that's a beautiful place. But asking God to reveal, how do I fit into this plan of yours, and what can I do to be a bit of good in this world, because we certainly need that.
Amen. Senator Kerry Roberts, give him a call if you have any questions, and join us tomorrow for One Street Over. This is 1100 WSGI.